First of all, if we look at the history of the COP, I think the first question to answer is how effective has it really been? The COP has achieved a few landmark things, such as the Paris Climate Accord. It is trying to achieve a global consensus around how we deal with climate, and within that is the topic of plastics and EPR. And so I would say the COP has been successful in raising awareness, in getting to some agreements, but the COP has not been successful when it comes to implementation. So what is happening differently this time in Brazil is, I believe the agenda is to focus more on implementation rather than continuing to talk, which I find is a welcome area of focus. Like to keep talking about what we need to do, there's no end to it. And we've seen this for decades, that if we just keep talking about climate change, and the actual action on the ground is always a matter of a waiting game. So I'm quite excited with the focus of let's now talk about implementing and not talk about any more new commitments. Now, within the packaging sector, the COP30 is going to be focusing more on the mechanisms around circular economy as it relates to packaging, which is primarily looking at the EPR model, extended producer responsibility. And this is, again, a very important thing, because there are some parts of the world where the EPR is not considered to be the normal standard or the normal way to transition to a circular economy, which is fine, right? Like, we're not expecting that every country in the world is going to follow the same approach, but it has been shown wherever EPR has been implemented that it's a fair, equitable, and transparent mechanism to transfer capital from the linear economy to the circular economy. And that money now starts to come in to waste collection, to waste sorting, to waste recycling. And it effectively becomes a new source of raw material. Rather than fossil-based plastic, we're now taking recovered plastic. So this is already a great way forward. The second thing that an EPR model does is also start to look upstream. So rather than making packaging that is not recyclable, the EPR model essentially penalizes by having something called eco-modulated fees. So the worse the packaging from an environmental perspective in terms of collecting, sorting, and recycling, the harder it is to do that, the higher the EPR fee. And those EPR fees can get very, very high, sometimes even more than the cost of the plastic raw material, which is great, because now it creates an incentive for the packaging manufacturers and the packaging user to look at changing the design of the packaging so that, number one, it is recyclable, number two, it is returnable, and number three, it is reusable. And within this, as they do it, it would also be good if they can reduce the amount of material, if they can, create primary or secondary uses for this material for the packaging before it actually has to go back to recycling.